Very happy to have you all here. Just a little context. This is our SNAP-Ed Transition Support Training Series. We pulled this together very quickly to provide some support to all of us across the state that are in the unfortunate position of transitioning to different positions and careers and, well, maybe not careers, but positions. And we've called on some friends that have been willing to give us their time and their expertise that will hopefully be helpful for us as we go through this. So today is our first one, and we're super excited to have Max Gibbs Ruby here today. Max is partnered with us at the Department of Corrections and has some particular skills in this area. So I'm going to let you take it away, Max, and thanks everyone so much for being here. We are going to record this, so that's getting started real quick. One quick question, Max. Would you rather have people hold questions till the end, or we can monitor the chat and let you know as well?
I am good with questions as we go.
Okay.
That's totally fine. And I'll try to keep an eye on chat as well. And I
Okay.
try to keep an eye on time. I think we have an hour, correct?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will do that. The first question also everybody asks is, can I get a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes, I will be sending out a copy of the PowerPoint and all the examples of what I'm using. And my email address is going to be on the first and last slide. You can also find me through, I've been in contact with a lot of you already. And even if like 2 months from now, you're like, oh my God, Max, can you take a look at my resume? Yes, absolutely. I will make time to look at your resume, talk to you about your cover letter, whatever you need. So that's my spiel. So I'm Max Gibbs Ruby. My pronouns are he, him, his. I work for both DSHS and the Department of Corrections as like a split liaison position. And I've been working with Chris Mornick and the SNAP-Ed team at DSHS to try and get services into Department of Corrections facilities. Obviously, that's not going to pan out now, unfortunately, but that's kind of how I got looped into this. And I was explaining to some people who were on earlier that like capitalism is what it is. And for some reason, I'm good at this piece of it. So if I can share any of that knowledge, I'm happy to do so. So if you have any questions, pop them in the chat, raise your hand, or if you come off of mute and start talking, I will also just stop and try and catch your question. So feel free to ask as we go. I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Um, Maybe. There's the share button. And this is not going to have any sound. And also it's going to be, huh, let me see here. I think you should all be seeing my PowerPoint slide. Does that look good to you all? Great. Okay. I'm used to Teams, so Zoom is a little bit of a different beast for me. Okay, so I covered this part already, job search, resume, and cover letter. I'm gonna kind of go through it fast because we have an hour and I want to leave time for questions or whatever you all need to do at the end. So if you're like, no, no, too fast, that's fine. Let me know. I'll slow down. So where to look? I think this is the first question. Chris Mornick had told me that a lot of you have been involved in SNAP-Ed for a long time, and this is kind of a new process or an again process for some of you after a while. Um, so I wanted to just kind of call out, there's a lot of like job search sites out there. I cannot verify all of them. But these are the ones I know are like real, might actually be useful, and aren't gonna like sell your information wildly to scam artists, hopefully. Actually, I can't promise that part. But they're at least verified and not going to like take your credit card and then do weird things with it. So jobs.wa.gov is, or it might be careers.wa.gov now that I think about it. But that's for the state. Obviously, the state is going through some weird hiring stuff too. So that may be hit or miss. But private industry stuff can be like LinkedIn, Indeed. You can go to the direct website if you're like, man, I really want to work for the first example that popped into my head, funnily enough, was like McDonald's. Not that I think any of you would go there, but like if you're like, I really want to work for McDonald's and like get their nutrition back in order, uh, you can go to like directly to the McDonald's website and look for their career page. It's usually at the bottom in like the about or careers section. Glassdoor, Monster, and ZipRecruiter. I I'm looking for a part-time job currently, a whole different story there. But so these are some of the sites I am also using. And so if you have any questions about like using them, I have been on them recently. How to look for a job, which might seem like a funny question, but they make it so like especially like Indeed, there's a button called Quick Apply, and basically you upload one resume, and anytime you're like, oh, that job looks good, you hit Quick Apply, and it just shoots off your resume to this job that you are looking at. It is a quick apply. It's super easy. And also, it might not be the best way to do it. It doesn't make you stand out if they're just getting like resume, resume, resume. And if you don't tailor your resume or your cover letter to a specific job you're looking for, I can't promise it'll get you a better result, but it is likely to get you a better result if you're like, I really want to work for your company specifically because of these reasons. And if they, so I've been on both sides of this desk, right? I've been a job seeker and I've been doing a ton of interviews throughout my career. And even if you just change the company name, like if you're reading, I really want to work for McDonald's, but you actually work for Wendy's, you're like, uh-huh. Yeah, I'm sure you want to work here. You didn't even bother to change your materials. So customize your materials, follow the instructions. If they like, the Washington State career website has you type in all of your stuff that should be on your resume and then also upload a resume, and it seems super redundant, and it is super redundant. But I can guarantee you that if you don't follow the instructions and put in, like, upload your 3 documents, even though it's already in there, you won't necessarily be considered for the position because bottom line, it shows you can't follow instructions. Um, but also it does these two pieces do different things in the job search system. So follow the instructions, even if they seem silly or redundant. Customize your materials as much as possible and be specific. So an example I always use is if you say you supervise employees, say I supervise 5 part-time volunteers, or I ran a department of 300 full-time employees, because those are super different supervisory experiences. So be specific. Um, you can have best guesses if you're like, I don't know how many sales we did last quarter. That's okay. Just guess. We did $1 million worth of sales last quarter, or whatever it is you're speaking about. Okay, so what is it? We're going to look at resumes and cover letters specifically. These kind of change and go even over my time of doing this presentation. They've changed a little bit in what is expected and what people are looking for in a resume and cover letter. And I think these are really challenging for a lot of people, and they tend to get confused in people's heads. So a resume, it's a brief account of your qualifications and personal experiences. Sorry. Qualifications and education and all of that. Professional experiences. Sorry, half my screen is hidden, so I was guessing at the word. Um, a cover letter, it's sent with and explains the contents of your resume. And I'm going to apologize. I know that you all are professionals, so this may be redundant, and I'm going to say I'm sorry if you're like, yeah, yeah, we know this is like for teenagers. But not everybody knows, so I'm just going to cover the basics and move forward. One other thing is that some people get confused and is like, put every single thing they've ever done on their resume. That is not what it is for. Unless you've only had like 3 jobs, then you can do that. But if you've had a career that has spanned a number of years, you're not going to go back and say every single thing you've done. In fact, if you had a stopgap job of like a barista, you may not even add that job. You might for continuity to show like, oh, I wasn't just picking my nose for 6 months. I was working. I just was looking for a different job. But you may not add it if it doesn't have any relevant experience. So you kind of got to weigh, is this relevant to the job that I am applying for? I'm going to keep moving here. They're the same in that you want, and I'm going to give you some examples in a few minutes so we can take a look at what I'm saying. But you want to be consistent in that they should have the same heading, they should be the same font, they should be the same style, and often they're about the same length. You want to stick to about 1 page for each of them. You can go over into 2 pages if you want. I definitely would not go over into three. The only exceptions to this are for academic jobs, and they ask for a curriculum vitae, which is like really legitimately every single thing you've done since you were born in chronological order. Um, that's a whole different discussion, and I'm not going to go into those here. But uh, you want them to be short and accessible, and we'll talk more about that as we go. They need to be easy to read because your number one job is to convey, as a job seeker, is to convey this information about who you are and your qualifications as quickly as possible to the person reading it. I've heard it said that people who are reading resumes and applications spend about 8 to 11 seconds kind of skimming through it before they kind of mentally, not even necessarily consciously, decide, oh, yeah, I want to look more into this. This person looks qualified. Or, yeah, this person's not qualified. They're out. If you're applying for state jobs and potentially some private sector jobs, we have to read the entire thing because we score each individual application on a rubric and we have to, it's public, you can put a public request in for this information. So you have to have justified why this person moved forward, why this person wasn't considered, that kind of thing. But in the private sector, they don't have any of those rules. In the private sector, they could be like, you used a weird font. I'm not going to read this and chuck it. So that's totally valid in the private sector. They don't have to justify their decisions. So, yeah, so you want to make it easy to read and get this information as fast as possible to them to show why you were qualified. That's why I say only 1 to 2 pages, because if you have somebody who's trying to dig through 6 pages of resume, they may just be like, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to do this. This next person has a 1 page resume. That's much easier to read. So that's your number one job. Number two is you want to tell the reviewer something useful to them. Um, it may be super impactful for you and it may be really important to you, but if it doesn't make sense in the context of the new job you're applying for, then don't include it. Um, for instance, you may have done daycare jobs for a long time, and like the most deeply rewarding part of that was the art projects you got to do with kids. Super fabulous. Kudos to you. That's amazing. And also, if it doesn't have to do with like if you were applying for a different Snap Ed job, you're not going to talk about these art projects. I mean, unless you can find some way to reasonably relate them, fine. But that may be meaningful to you, but if it's not useful to the reviewer, it's just a waste of space in your applications. Hopefully this makes sense. And again, please raise your hand or chat or come off of mute and start talking if you have any questions. Okay, so resumes. Number one goal, easy to read, no more than a page. You want to organize them so that the most useful information is first and most relevant information. So in this country, we read again, top to bottom, left to right. That probably came flipped for you all because I think this is mirrored, but you know what I'm talking about. Um, so you want to go with where their eye is going to land first, which is your top left corner should be like your name. It could also be top and center, your name, contact information, because if they want to contact you for a job, you don't want them to have to hunt and be like, oh, where's their email address? So it should be either in the left margin, maybe it's left margin because that's left for you guys, um, or on the top. And then your relevant experience should be first. So whatever job you did most recently or that is most relevant should be your first job. You want to use bullet points or short sentences and use proper punctuation. Listen, along with capitalism, professionalism is this cultural construct that is total BS and really a colonized way of doing things. And also, it is the game we play when we're doing job search. So I want to name that as I talk about professionalism and punctuation, I get that it's total BS, and also it makes a difference in your job search, and I'm sorry. So you want to use bullet points, short sentences, proper punctuation, and you want to have labels for sections. You want to make good use of your white space and your written space so that maybe the most important qualification for somebody is, do you have a biology degree? And they want to be able to, you want them to be able to jump, oh, where is that? Oh, education section. Okay, I see, biology degree. Okay, now I'm going to read the rest of your resume. So label your sections for your easy reader flow. Uh, don't get fancy, no weird fonts. Back in the day, I used to have to tell people like, don't print it on pink paper, don't spray perfume on your resume. Like we don't do any of that now because it's all electronic, but don't get fancy. No graphics, none of that kind of stuff. You want just this is information only. And then most importantly, you want to use spell check on your documents. Be your own spell check. So by that I mean I really recommend reading your materials out loud to yourself because your eyes skip over things that your tongue will catch as you're reading out loud. And then you can also ask other people, hey, can you read my resume or cover letter? And then you want to edit for readability and grade level. If you know for a fact that somebody with a PhD is going to be reading your materials, great, you can have say whatever you want in there. But if that gets handed off to the summer intern or whatever, you want to make sure that your materials are accessible to as many people as possible. So that also means like spelling out acronyms. If you say I did TBD applications on the PHC system, I'm like, I have no idea what that means. Is that useful to me as a job recruiter or not? I don't know. So spell things out. We're going to talk about that a lot too. Be specific. Again, we use the example of how many people you supervised and what that looks like. Try not to use vague and useless buzzwords or cliches, but you do want to use keywords. And we're going to talk about this more later as we look at a job advertisement and look at how that might translate into a resume or cover letter. You don't want to make them translate what you're saying. And by that, I mean, if you say, I handled situations, I have no idea what that means. Um, does that mean that you cleaned up the salad bar during a super messy lunch rush? Or does that mean you de-escalated customers and had great public service, customer service skills? So you want to be specific that way, and you don't want them to have to translate the experience. So, for instance, if you were doing customer service or sales job and you were applying for a social worker position with DSHS, you would want to talk about the de-escalation and how that customer service piece translates into working with clients. You don't want your reader to have to do the mental gymnastics to be like, oh yeah, I get that that is how that connects together. You want to spell it out for them, make it easy. Um, this is really not a great thing to say, but assume that they don't know. I was gonna say think that they're stupid, but you really just want to assume that they don't know anything about anything you're talking about. Spell it out. Assume that they're not that bright and they can't draw those connections themselves, and spell it out for them. Um, Out with the old. So usually you should put up to 10 years. You don't have to do 10 years, but up to 10 years of history, job search history, or 15 if it's highly relevant. If you did the exact same job, but it was 11 years ago, yeah, put it in there. But if your job like 11 to 13 years ago was, I don't know, working for Starbucks, maybe that's not so relevant. You can leave that out. It doesn't have to be every single thing you've done. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna look at an example here. And we're going to take a look at some of the stuff I've talked about in the context of an actual resume. I want to point out that all the examples I'm going to share they're not like all bad or all good. There's some of each. So you can put it in chat or call it out verbally. What you're seeing in Mr. Dugo's resume that is good, bad, ugly, what would you change based on what we've talked about? Yeah, the picture. Uh-huh. Too many graphics. Yep. Too many fonts. That's not one something somebody calls out very often, but yeah, absolutely. By his name, I'm assuming you mean like the shadow boxing of his name or whatever. Yeah, that's not great. Yep. Yeah, you guys are nailing this. Um, So I want to point out a couple of things, and one is that it depends on what job you're applying for. So this resume be absolutely, and we have no idea. This is just an example. Yeah, skills chart at the bottom is confusing. Um, it depends on the job you're applying for. So, and this is just one I pulled off the internet at some point in the past, I don't know, 10 years or whatever. So if he was applying for a job that's like, we need a super enthusiastic, very outgoing, high energy, very personable salesperson. This resume may be spot on for that. I don't know. I would probably still make some changes, but if this is how he wanted to convey it, they may look at this resume and be like, bang, this is our guy. But for most cases, a lot of what you're all calling out in the chat is super spot on. So yeah, you need to simplify it for sure. The skills chart at the bottom, even if that was the case and that's the job he's applying for, um, the skills chart at the bottom is super confusing. Like MS Office, what is that? 20, 35%. 35% of what? Like you can use 35% of the programs. You're 35% good at Word. I don't know what that means. So yeah, keeping it cool. That's one of my favorites too. Um, so picture, some people ask, should we put a picture of ourselves on our resume? Some job applications, there's a spot for that, some there isn't. First, always follow directions. One, if they say you must include a photo, include a photo. Two, I would be super suspicious of anywhere that says you must include a photo. That seems like there's a lot of room for bias there. Um, I'm going to talk about photos and hobbies, and these can go two ways. So, one, you could put a picture in there, and if you're applying in the private sector, your reviewer could be like, I don't like the way this guy looks, out. Or your reviewer could be like, oh, this guy looks like a lot of fun. Look at those sunglasses. That's so cool. I'm going to interview him. So it could go both ways, and you have to kind of gauge for yourself, do I want to take that risk? Um, one, if you're applying for a professional position, I'd say no pictures ever unless it's required because it tends to look unprofessional. So there. But the hobbies section, some people call that out when I've done this presentation before. I am a fan of putting hobbies and interests in your resume. Not like a huge section. You don't want that to take up all your resume, but just like a line or two or a couple bullet points at the bottom on the side. And that's because you want to give them something to remember you by. This resume is pretty memorable, but if this was all just text and then he had jujitsu and photography, you could be like, oh yeah, the guy who did jujitsu, I remember him. He seemed interesting. It can go both ways. Again, like the picture. I would steer clear of putting any like um hobbies or interests that could be divisive. So for instance, if abortion activism is super your bag, that's that's great that you have that as a passion. Do you want to put it on your resume? If it's really important that your employer love and respect that about you, sure, put it on your resume. It'll weed out those employers that are like, and you'll end up with a better fit. But you may have to apply to more jobs to get somebody who's willing to accept that and deal, celebrate that part of you. So that can be really a double-edged sword there. But like jujitsu and photography, pretty tame hobbies. I don't think anybody's going to have any really gut reactions to these hobbies and have like one way or the other feelings about you if this is who you are. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing Mr. Dugo's resume. I'm only going to go through one example at a time, just in the interest, one ex one example for each section, just in the interest of time. So I'm going to go back to the presentation for the moment, but if you have any other questions about that, I will send Julie Smith's as an example handout, but we're not going to go through it together. When you take a look at it, it's good and bad, so you can look at it and see what would you do, what would you include, what would you not include. Cover letters. So also, you want them to be well written, professional, well spelled, well punctuated, all of that. Um, use your white space well, so chunk it out into paragraphs. Don't just cram a whole bunch of text on a page. That makes it very difficult for the reader. I would say if you have all this text and you have to have it, it's a need, move it onto 2 pages or a page and a half as opposed to cramming it all together on 1 page. It's more important for it to be readable than for it to be short, in terms of page length. Again, you want to spell it out and tell the reviewer something meaningful about you and meaningful to them about you. Organization, we talked about full sentences, proper punctuation. So whereas the resume could be bullet points and like partial sentences, you want it to be understandable, but it doesn't have to be well articulated sentences necessarily on a resume. You do want, like, a cover letter is a letter, and it can also be used sometimes as your first writing sample. So this may not be for every single job. Like if you're working as um, a barista, again, that writing may not be a big part of that job, so it may not be a big deal. But if you're going into somewhere, a job where writing is going to be part of it, they're going to look at your cover letter and be like, oh, this person can't spell and they write like crap. I don't know if they're a good fit for this job. So make sure you make this as good as possible if the job you're applying, always, but especially if the job you're applying for requires writing. Talked about all that. That's the same as resumes. Translating your experiences and skills. Again, you don't spell it out for them. You don't want them to have to guess at what you're trying to get to or what you mean, and be specific. You do want to put into your resume or cover, not your resume, into your cover letter, an anecdote or explanation of a recent and relevant achievement you want to be remembered for. I won the last quarter's sales goal for my company. This is my third time winning it. I do this because I shake everybody's hand and greet everybody with a smile, and it seems to nail the deal, or whatever it is, right? So I had this recent achievement. My work group finished this project, and we were able to save this particular nonprofit by standing on our heads as a challenge for an hour. I don't know, whatever it is. Like pick an example to stand out. And this kind of works in the same way as your hobbies. They'll be like, oh, I remember that person. They were the one who did the stand on your head challenge. That's wild. I want to meet them. Whatever. Okay, so cover letter examples. We're going to look at one of these. Again, I know I'm rushing through this, so please, if you have questions, I don't know if I can see raised hands, but at least come off of mute, shout it out, and I'm trying to keep an eye on chat. I'm pulling up an example here. Again, so AI, okay, yes, AI and cover letters, good, bad. AI is still really new. I've seen it used both ways. So my son is pretty severely autistic and has a hard time putting like words and sentences together, some learning disabilities. And so for a long time, I was like super no AI. Like this is taking um, art away from artists and this is crap and I don't support it. And then I saw my son got into it and was using it, and it helps him string his cover letters together and like put words together in a way that he wouldn't be able to manage on his own. And I feel like it's useful for him as an accessibility tool. So I've seen it both ways, right? You do want to be careful. And this is something employers are going to have to deal with. You may get called to do, if it like writing is a very important part of the job you're applying for, you may get called in to do a writing sample on the spot because nobody's going to be able to trust what your cover letter says anymore as yours, basically, because of AI. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting thing to see how this affects job search. I would say use it if it's a tool that is useful for you. Um, and yeah, so I guess I don't have a lot to say on AI other than personal experiences and anecdotes. I'm sorry that's not super helpful. But if anybody else has thoughts, I welcome those as well.
Max, do you know if companies are using tools to screen for AI cover letters, and did they just omit those, or Because what I'm seeing as I'm applying for jobs is a lot of these jobs are getting hundreds of applicants. And I've heard hiring
Yeah.
managers say that they've never seen this many people apply and they're using AI tools to filter through candidates. I guess what do you know about that? What are you seeing? How can we avoid being the people filtered out by these tools? Hopefully that was kind of two questions in one, but that's
Yeah,
just something I've been concerned about as I job hunt.
totally. So first I want to say that it looks like your next session in this series is about this exact topic, which is great. Because I don't know a ton. I would say your best bet would be to maybe run your own materials through AI sorting and see what they say about it. Like kind of reverse psychology hijack the process a little bit. Might be a tool to use for yourself. And then the other piece of it is just be yourself and try to tailor it as much as possible to the company. Um, you might want to put in a typo. I don't know if this would work or not, but like have a small human mistake to prove it's not AI. I don't know if that would work. That's just an idea that popped into my head. Maybe worthwhile, maybe not. I don't know a ton about it, unfortunately, and I'm really sorry that I don't have more info, but it sounds like on Thursday you're going to talk about that if possible. So sorry, I don't have a ton of information about that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to share a cover letter with you. This is an example I pulled off the internet, so please don't pay attention to the logo at the bottom. That's just where I got this place from. And again, this is somebody else's PowerPoint. It came from like a ton of years ago, so please don't mind the date. But take a look at this and tell me what you think is good and bad um, in this cover letter.
Can we zoom in?
Oh yeah. Whoa, that's a little bit big. Let me see if I can make that even bigger. Does that work for you, better for you? Okay, awesome. Thanks for speaking up.
It's not very personal. It's very dry. There's a lot of color,
Yeah.
and it's in this landscape format that I don't know. It doesn't look like a letter. It looks like a flyer.
Yeah. And that could be the way it got put on the PowerPoint slide. I don't actually know. Again, this is just something I probably Googled cover letter or whatever. Um, so yeah, so many things. The formatting, contact info location. Yeah.
The
This
the
look,
the heading and like to the manager, it's better to get it to someone specifically. And you never say dear sir slash madam. That's just no.
that's super outdated. Yeah, for sure. Look into micro keywords, hiding keywords. Yeah, so Stacy, that's a great point. And this is probably a little unethical, but I always try to make this point as well. If you can't get your keywords into your, like, first of all, you should be able to get your keywords into your cover letter. But if for some reason you can't, and you're like, I really want to include the word data and metrics, and I can't figure out how my job translates to that, put it in white font at the bottom, and computer readers, AI readers will catch it, but the human eye, if they print it out or are looking at it on a screen, won't catch it. So it doesn't look weird. You just have these like words sticking out at the bottom, but the computerized piece will catch it. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, maybe not the most ethical, but also neither is capitalism. So do what you got to do to get the job. Okay, so looking at who is this? Mike's cover letter. Uh, You, I like what, so Sir and Madam, not so great. That's super dated. Hillary, I think you mentioned it's better to have it to somebody specific. As a reviewer, even if you got the wrong specific person, like if I'm the reviewer and you sent it to the manager of the company, like for me, it tells me you did more research. You made an attempt to get it to somebody specific, even if it's the wrong person. Like you didn't know I was going to be reviewing your stuff. You thought it would be this person. That's fine. If you literally cannot find a name, I say to whom it concerns. Um, to who it may concern, or dear hiring manager. That's fine too. Like but I would stay away from the gendered language, especially in this day and age. Um, I like that they said what a position they're applying for and where they found it, because a company may be advertising for multiple positions. They may be hiring for an administrative assistant and a public benefit specialist 1 and 6. And so if you just say, I'm writing to apply for the position mentioned on your website, you're like, well, which position is that? So be specific that way. Um, I like that they said why they believe they're a good candidate for it. And they said a little something that'll stick out. I just taken my final year exams, strong background in this, blah, blah, blah. And then they wrapped it up nicely. So that's good. Yeah, their phone numbers looks like an international phone number. So that's fine. I would say in general, this would work. I would, as a somebody reviewing this, I wouldn't kick out their application just for this cover letter. Is it the best one I've seen? No, but it'll do the job. All right. Um, I'm gonna go back to my presentation, which I think there's not a lot left of. I want to make sure we have time for questions too. Um, we're not going to do anonymouses. Oh, I do want to go over this reviewing a job advertisement thing with you. Sorry. Please close your eyes if you get motion sick, because I'm jumping all over the place up in here. This is a recruiting advertisement I pulled off of Craigslist back in the day. So back when I pulled this, it's from 2021. When I was searching for jobs, Craigslist was a great place to find jobs. That is not the case anymore. You still can find real valid employers on Craigslist, but they are few and far between. So you could add that to your list of places to check, but I would not necessarily make that your go-to employment website search place, and be especially discerning about advertisements you see on Craigslist. But the point of this is I want to, again, close your eyes if you get motion sick. I'm going to scroll. I want to show you where to look for what you're going to put in your resume and cover letter. And again, you probably know some of this already. Okay, so open your eyes if you closed them. In this role, you will, and it talks about what you can expect this job to look like and what the ideal candidate should look like. And you want, okay, so a couple of things. You want to match the information in your cover letter and resume as tightly to these two sections of this job advertisement as possible. So if you can, I wouldn't say copy and paste, but if you say like, my job currently is to support recruiting managers in the whole life cycle of recruitment to termination or whatever it is. So you're using keywords from this job advertisement and putting them in your resume and cover letter. The closer you match up with the job advertisement, because sometimes it may be somebody from a different department. There's been times where like, hey Max, we need another person on this reviewing team. Can you step in? I know you don't know anything about this position or this department, but if you could just help us read these applications, that'd be great. I'm given a copy of the job advertisement and a package of applications. So I have to look at it and say, does this person on the application match what I'm seeing in this job advertisement? And you may end up with somebody like that. It may not be somebody necessarily who knows a lot about it. So you want to try and match these things as closely together. One trick I've heard of is, those free word cloud generators you can get online. Don't take the entire job advertisement, but take this part of the text of what you'll do in the role and what the ideal candidate does. Put it in a word cloud generator and see which words come up biggest. And those are the places you want to focus your time and energy on your resume and cover letter. So try to match this as neatly, as closely as possible, especially in the ideal candidate piece of things. You want to show that you have as many of these check marks as possible. The other thing I want to say about this is I've read multiple articles on people who are assigned female at birth tend to not apply for jobs if they don't meet all the qualifications. While people who are assigned male at birth are like, whatever, close enough, I'm going to apply to this job anyway. You get actually 0% of the jobs you don't apply for. Funny statistic. So, even if you're like, you know what, I really want this job and close enough, maybe they can overlook this 2 years of experience thing, just apply. What, like, you have nothing to lose. You're not going to get the job if you don't apply for it. So just give it a shot. That is not to say lie on your resume and cover letter, because I've had a friend also get into some sticky situations when they lied on their resume and cover letter, and they're like, I think he actually ended up turning off the entire internet provider for most of Europe at one point on accident when he did that. So, don't lie, but if you can just get close enough and be honest about your qualifications, they may be willing to overlook like 2 years of experience or whatever. This is not to say if you're going to be running a nuclear reactor, if you don't have a PhD, that's not close enough. I'm sorry. But you know, just be a little more flexible with that. The reality is we don't hire the person who's the most qualified. We hire the person who's the best fit. And so if you can prove that you're the best fit, then you have a better chance of getting the job over somebody who's more qualified. Yeah, Anna, that's right. I have a friend who always says it's their job to decide if you are qualified slash the best candidate. Don't take their job away from them. Absolutely. Don't do their work for them. You have your own job, and that's to sell yourself. So, any questions on reading a job advertisement? All right. Gonna go back to I'm gonna show you an example of kind of everything put together into a polished package. And again, I'm going to be sending out the PowerPoint presentation and also um, the handouts that we're going through, plus some others I did not take the time to go through. So this is what I'm about to share is a real resume and cover letter I actually did for somebody. Everything has been fictionalized. For instance, they were not working for Calvin Klein. They were not applying for Calvin Klein. This is just fictionalized email, phone number, everything, so I can have the example. I'm going to scroll out a little bit so you can see the layout of it. So are you all seeing Christy Maytown's resume? Okay, great. Thank you. Nice big heading of this with contact information, super accessible. So one of the changes in resumes has been back in the day, we used to put our address and zip code on there. Now everything is so virtual. And I'm of the opinion if you're applying for a job and you know it's in South Dakota, you got to show up to South Dakota. Even if that means you're flying in every day, that's not my problem. Like, you know where the job is at, it's in person, you figure out how to get there. I don't care if you live there or not. That's my personal opinion. So to me, it doesn't matter where you live, as long as I've been super clear, like, this job is in the office, in our South Dakota office. You know you need to show up, or you're going to move there ahead of time, or whatever. So you don't need to include your address on there anymore. I would have your contact information. This person chose to include their LinkedIn address, and that's totally fine. LinkedIn is a great professional networking tool. In your guys's case, I highly encourage all of you to get it and network. Again, professionalism. This is a super like white colonizer way of doing things, and also it's the game we play. And the one thing I will say about your LinkedIn part of things is if you're going to put LinkedIn, again, totally your choice whether you do it or not, make sure your LinkedIn is up to date. Don't have it your last job be 6 years ago when you were a coffee barista and have none of your actual experience. That doesn't make it a useful tool for you. Okay, business letter format. Even if I'm going to be emailing this, I would include, you may or may not include the address, but just have it in this business letter kind of format of who you're writing to and why, and then what position you're applying for. Again, the company may be hiring for multiple positions. It's useful to them to know which one you're applying for so they don't mismatch you and be like, you're not qualified at all, and have to figure out where your application fits. I'm not going to read through this, but you can kind of see that you've got some paragraphs here and using those white space to really have the flow be good. Okay, looks like you have networking, LinkedIn for online networking with Lori. I kind of want to attend some of your guys' sessions. This all sounds amazing. Okay, so your first paragraph is going to be who you are and why you're applying. Um, and a little bit about you. So like you're qualified for these three reasons, whatever you want to say. Your second, third, fourth paragraphs are going to be a follow-up on that first paragraph, expanding on that first paragraph, really delving into those reasons, proving why you're qualified, um, adding context to the resume document. And then your last paragraph is going to be kind of this nice bow at the end where you wrap it all up and say, hey, for the above reason, you can please word this more professionally than I'm about to say it. For the above reasons, I'm super qualified for this job. I'd love to hear from you. You may choose to also put your contact information at the bottom as well. So when they get finished reading, like, oh, there's your phone number. Um, Room for an actual signature. Again, feel free to steal this if you want. This is not an actual signature that I know of, so it's not going to get you anywhere. But an actual signature is a nice touch. Probably not required. I would never throw out somebody's resume or cover letter because they didn't put in an actual signature or a digitalized signature, as opposed to just typing their name. But to me, it says they took more time and it looks more professional. And then what I want to point out here is that this heading, so this is all one PDF document. If you are applying through email and you're going to be emailing your documents to a hiring manager, put it all together into one PDF. Your cover letter should go first, and then your resume. I would not include references unless they specifically say, please include a list of 3 references or whatever. Then that would go last. But if they don't ask for references, it should just be your cover letter and resume. Put it all together into one PDF document so that they don't have to open 3 different documents or whatever. They only have to open one. Again, make it as easy as possible for them to get the information from you about you. So again, same heading on this on this resume here. It's the second page of this PDF document, and it uses these bullet points with good headings. So you want to know about work experience, here's that. And then education, there's a big section there. So that's the entire part of their resume for this candidate. Volunteer, second languages, awards won, that should all go at the bottom. If it's 20 years ago and you won the high school talent contest, if that's a great achievement you want to include, do it. But if you're doing it for relevancy, maybe keep it out. It should be things, again, within the last 10 years for your awards, usually. Okay, so any questions, comments, concerns, anything you're wondering about I haven't covered? All right, y'all are pretty quiet, and I'm hoping that means that I've given you a lot to think about. I'm gonna throw up my email addresses again. I'm also gonna type in my personal email addresses so that if you have something you don't want on the state system, you're welcome to reach out to me personally as well. So there's my uh, work email addresses, but my private email address is here, and you're welcome to use that as well. I'm willing to help with anything. You need a good summer salad recipe, or we got winter upcoming. I got soups galore. I'm willing to help. Do not contact me about your fantasy sports leagues. You will lose if I help you. But basically, anything else, I am happy to help with as well. So even if it's a few months from now, you need help with a resume, cover letter, you want me to look over your materials, provide suggestions, I'm happy to do that. So I'm just more than happy to help if I can. But let me know if there's anything else you all need. And yeah, otherwise, I hope you all have a great day.
I have a super quick question.
Yeah,
First of all,
please.
thank you. This is so much good information, and I'll definitely be going back through to like rewatch and and process everything. But assuming so, a lot of places will have, you know, the whole system in place that you have to upload a specific document format and everything. But is there, you know, if you are applying to a place that is just, you know, asking for email or something like that, is like a PDF best? Would you want to send a Word document? Is there any kind of advice on that end?
Absolutely. So PDF is always best because you don't know what version of Word they have, and you may have taken 6 hours to make sure that it looks exactly lined up, and then they open it in Word and it's all messed up, and then it reflects poorly on you, even though you did your best to make it look good. PDF freezes your formatting, it makes it look sharp. If you do not have Adobe Acrobat, because that's expensive and who wants to pay for that crap, there's a thing called Small PDF. It's smallpdf.com, and it is a PDF everything-er. You can turn it into JPEGs, you can turn it into Word, you can do all sorts of great stuff with it. It does so you can pay for that, which is much more affordable than Adobe, one. But two, uh, if you erase your it only allows you to do like 2 documents, and then you have to wait 24 hours or something. Just erase your cookies, start over again, use a different email browser, whatever, and you can do another kind of operation. I find that supremely useful. So always use PDF, always try to put it together in one PDF. For your email, you can have it be, don't have it be your entire cover letter in the email, because you don't know who's getting the email. It might be an assistant who's just trying to funnel information. So you can just say like, hey, attached is my application for the XYZ job. Thank you for the opportunity. Let me know if you have any questions. Here's my phone number, whatever. So don't make it your cover letter in the body of the email. Make that a separate document. You didn't ask that, but that's another tip. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And I just saw Stacy say, if anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, feel free. Ditto. I'm on LinkedIn. You can definitely find me. I am happy. And if you tell me, the other thing is, if you tell me I really want this kind of job, or I'm looking for any job, Max, I'm searching for jobs all the time for myself right now. I'm staying in this position, but looking for a part-time job. Anyway, I'm happy to help look for you and be like, oh, this looks something that Holly might like, and send it off to you or whatever. So you don't have to take me up on that. I'm not going to be here crying if you don't, but I'm willing to help. Yeah, thanks for putting the small PDF link in there, Anna. Any other questions, concerns? Well, even if you think of something later, hit me up. I'm really happy to answer anything whenever. I just want to be able to help. Great. I'm glad this is useful to all of you. And if you can, definitely take advantage. Some of the new sessions you have coming up look really useful. So sit in on those, or at least watch the recording if you can. It looks like they seems like they have some answers to questions I won't have, or I don't have. Thank you, everybody.
Max, thank you so much for being here, for kicking off our series, and for all of this great information. I know we'll be getting lots of requests for your PowerPoint and the follow-up, so thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll send that to you right after we're done here. I'm sorry, I was running late this morning, so I didn't send it out ahead of time, but I will send that out
No
right
worries
now.
at all. No worries at